Hey guys, today for this video I'm going to be talking about an idea that has just been brought to the surface of the sports world that I just think is crazy. Anyways, according to an article on sportslogos.net, supposedly the Tampa Bay Rays are looking at the idea of becoming a two-city team where they would play, instead of playing full seasons in Tampa Bay, what they want to now do is they want to split their seasons between Tampa Bay and Montreal, where for the first half of the season, Tampa Bay would continue to play in Tampa Bay, but in future seasons, what they're looking at is the idea of playing the second halves of their seasons going forward in Montreal. I mean, personally, I think that idea is absolutely crazy. Now, on top of that, according to the sportslogos.net article, here's what they would also like to do. Just trying to see where it is here. But, okay, so under the plan, the Rays would have new stadiums built in both Tampa Bay and Montreal. So you're telling me, so what I'm trying to say here is, so really what this plan is saying is that what they would like to see is two different areas pitch in as much as $1 billion each for new stadiums to both host 41 games a season, guaranteed. Not full seasons, just 41 games. I mean, if they did that right now with Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay and Olympic Stadium in Montreal, okay, this arrangement could actually technically work. But if anybody's thinking that both the Tampa Bay region and Montreal are both going to fork out hundreds of millions of dollars to potentially $1 billion+ each on new stadiums in two different regions to only host half a season a year for each region, it just sounds like total lunacy. It sounds nuts. It just doesn't work, in my opinion. And remember, folks, this video is my opinion on this. Would I love to see baseball back in Montreal? My answer is hell yes. I would love to see Canada get another professional sports team again. That would be great. And I feel that I've always felt that it was a shame that the Expos ever left Montreal in the first place. And, it's a real shame because I think that the city of Montreal is a great sports city, and, I think that Canada should have a second Major League Baseball franchise again. And it sucks that the Expos are gone. And I think it would be so cool if Montreal could get their Expos team back. I mean, even though they would not be the original Expos team, which is now the Washington Nationals, who cares? In my opinion, I think it would just be nice to see Montreal get a team again. Call them the Expos 2.0. They would be just like the Winnipeg Jets in the National Hockey League, where this current edition of the Winnipeg Jets, which will hopefully this will be the last time the Winnipeg Jets ever get a team back, because hopefully the Jets are never going to leave Winnipeg ever again. But in the National Hockey League, the Winnipeg Jets that are now in the NHL, that have been thankfully in the NHL since the Atlanta Thrashers were relocated to Winnipeg back in 2011, are known as the Winnipeg Jets 2.0. I mean, why could they not do that for a Montreal Major League Baseball franchise and call them the Expos 2.0? I mean, I think that would be a great idea. I mean, the idea of calling them the Expos again would be terrific. That name has a ton of history, and it's a great name, too, in my opinion. I mean, the Montreal Expos, I mean, a lot of people that I know, even people who aren't sports fans, know who the Expos were. And, you know, I would love to see Montreal get a team again, but a two-city solution with two different cities in two different opposite ends of North America, where Montreal's up north and Tampa Bay's down in the southeastern United States, and in two different countries, that's crazy. But if this plan that I've read in the sportslogos.net article is true, where it talks about information that's surfaced from ESPN.com, I mean, if this plan to have both of these regions paying for new stadiums, for each stadium to host 41 home games a year, that's just not feasible. So all this money for a city to host 41 games a year for a team that's not even really, that's belongs to the city, but it's not fully theirs. It's a two-city team. I mean, I just think it's crazy. And question I would have is, where would you play the playoff games? You can't just have all of your playoff games in Tampa Bay or Montreal. That's not fair to the other city's fan base. It's just not fair. And the thing with Tampa Bay is that, you know, one thing I find troubling about this, or I would find troubling about this if I was a Rays fan, which I'm not, but, you know, why would this ownership group want to move your team out of Tampa Bay for half of a season, every season, and taking half of your games away every season? I mean, to me, that's not a good sign if you're a Rays fan. It's not a good sign at all. And you know what? I could totally appreciate Rays fans being concerned about this, thinking that, you know what, this might be the beginning of the end for the Rays. And you know what, guys? I'm going to be honest. I've watched baseball games in Tampa Bay for years. Whether it's the Blue Jays in Tampa Bay or even other teams that playing the Rays in games that are randomly televised here in Canada, I've never seen Tropicana Field with a full crowd. Usually their crowds are very empty. There's very, very little crowds in the Tropicana Field Stadium in Tampa Bay or in St. Petersburg. And that is just crazy to me that this is even an idea. But you know what? I mean, technically, it could work, because you could have Tampa Bay for the first half of the season host home games, and then this Rays/Expos or Tampa Montreal team could then go on the road for a while and say play a couple series in Houston and Texas against the Rangers and the Astros, for example. Then they could go and play, say, I don't know, the Toronto Blue Jays for a series, and then go to Montreal and start playing there at home as the home team for the rest of the season. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, you've got this team would be in two different countries. This team would be in two different cities on opposite ends of North America, where the city of Montreal is up north, and the Tampa Bay region where the Rays play, which I believe they play specifically in St. Petersburg, would, they play in that half and then they play in the other half. I don't want to keep saying that word, but the word crazy. But if they stayed in both of the current stadiums and did not expect either city because I know Tampa Bay is a region and Tampa Bay itself is not a city, I don't believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not fully sure, to be honest. If they kept the existing stadiums that both cities have, where the Rays would play in St. Petersburg in Tropicana Field for half the season, and the other half of the season in Olympic Stadium in Montreal, okay. Then I think it's a little bit more feasible. But this plan and expecting both cities to pay for new stadiums for 41 games a year each with a situation where you wouldn't know who's going to be hosting playoff games, yikes. I mean, I've heard that Tampa Bay's problem has been the fact that their stadium is in a low population area and that it's not in a very great place in terms of population traffic. I mean, that definitely has an effect, which it does. That would have an effect. So, what I've heard is that they've had troubles trying to find a new place for a stadium. So, if Tampa Bay builds a new stadium, why are you moving half of that region's games to Montreal? I mean, this actually sounds like an idea where they're trying to test the waters of a team in Montreal. Which, personally, I really want to see a team in Montreal. I think this is exciting from a Canadian sports fan's perspective, especially if you're a baseball fan, and even more specifically, an old Expos fan. But, if Montreal builds a new stadium, I think that the Tampa Bay Rays days could be numbered. I mean, judging from the attendance problems that they've had and the problems they've had trying to build a new stadium in the Tampa Bay region of Florida, I think by the sounds of this, basically Montreal is a stadium investment away from getting a baseball team again, which I think would be fantastic. But, I also would feel bad for the folks down in Tampa Bay that are Rays fans. Even if that stadium's not full, they do have fans down there, but unfortunately, what it's looking like is that there's not been enough fans to support the team in Tampa Bay. And do I believe that the city of Montreal would be a better place for that team? If they had a new stadium, my answer would be absolutely yes. Montreal is a proven baseball city, and I have no doubt in my mind that an Expos 2.0 would do a lot better than the baseball team has done in Tampa Bay, than the Rays have done in their many years now in Tampa Bay. And it's a shame, but you know what? Sometimes these things happen where there's some cities and some regions where a sports team just doesn't work. But I would definitely argue that Montreal is the superior city for baseball over St. Petersburg. I mean, hopefully they'll build a new stadium in Tampa Bay. And hopefully they'll be able to keep the Rays. And actually, on top of that, hopefully they could keep the Rays and add a new team in Montreal. I mean, that would be fantastic. Everybody would win, but if Tampa Bay has not been able to get a new stadium built after like 20 years of trying to get a new stadium built, and if Montreal can get shovels in the ground and get a new stadium built, I could easily see Tampa Bay relocated to Montreal and see the Expos make a return. And you know what? If Tampa Bay moved to Montreal, they would be in a terrific spot in the American League East. Because the other teams in that division are the Toronto Blue Jays, which they would have a rivalry right away with their other... It would be the Battle of Canada pretty much, because you would have the two Canadian teams, the only two Canadian teams in baseball in the same division, where before I believe the Expos were actually in the National League, and when they did relocate to Washington, Washington just retained their spot in the National League, which makes sense. But now with this arrangement, you would have Toronto, you would have Montreal, and Montreal would be close to New York to play the Yankees, and Boston for the Red Sox, and of course there's Baltimore in that division as well, which is further south, or further south in the United States. So if you move Tampa Bay to Montreal, that team would fit in that division still, no problem. But, you know, this idea, in my opinion, is ridiculous. So, I mean, if they're going to expect two different cities in two opposite ends of North America and in two different countries to both pony up new stadiums to host 41 games a season each, they're crazy. I mean, if they did this while the Rays and the city of Montreal both had their existing stadiums, I would say that there's a chance that this could actually work. That, okay, well, even though Olympic Stadium in Montreal is not the greatest, and they do need a new stadium for sure, I mean, for 41 games a year in the short term, it could actually work. Like, I actually believe that if the Rays are genuinely struggling, which I'm sure they are, I've heard that they are, in terms of, as a franchise, to survive in Tampa Bay, you know, I think in the short term what they should do is they should play some games in Montreal. And I do think that their attendance would be much better than in Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. I do believe that. And Tropicana Field does need to be replaced. It's an older stadium, it's an indoor ballpark, and it's really dark and old. So yeah, it does need to be replaced. But if they can't find a replacement in Tampa Bay, and Montreal ends up finding a site, getting the money together, and getting this thing done, and getting the stadium built, I don't think the Tampa Bay Rays will be the Rays for much longer. I think they'll be relocating and becoming the Montreal Expos. And and you know what, guys? I would love to see it, but, you know, this two city, two different country solution for this one franchise to me is just crazy. It sounds more like a way of... It's almost like it almost sounds like a subtle warning to Tampa Bay that, hey, either you get a new stadium built, or we're going to start by moving half of your games to Montreal, and if they get a new stadium, we're going to move the whole goddamned team up north. That's what it kind of sounds like to me. So I think what they're trying to do here is they're trying to get Tampa Bay to fund a new stadium. And now I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, if you guys don't get this done, we're moving this team. Plain and simple. I mean, I can't say it enough. I mean, would I love to see a team in Montreal again and see the Expos brought back? My answer is hell yeah. But hopefully they'll find a solution that allows Montreal to join Major League Baseball again and keep the Rays in Tampa Bay on top of that. But I don't think that's going to happen. And if the Tampa Bay Rays are not suitable in Tampa Bay any longer and can't get a new stadium built, then they shouldn't be looking at splitting half of their regular season games with Montreal. I think they should be looking at, hey, when can we get a new stadium built? And hey, let's get this team moved to Montreal. Pick one or pick the other, as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, that's my thoughts on that. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But what I'm going to do now is there are some things that I want to talk about here that have nothing to do with this topic here. So I'm going to be talking about some milestones that some people have had. I'm also going to talk about some little bit of minor stuff to do with my channel. So if you don't want to hear about that stuff, I'm just going to warn you now that in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to switch to that starting right about in about a few seconds here. So if you don't want to hear about me talking about the channel and talking about some milestones that some other channels have had recently, then the video is now over for you. But if you want to stick around and catch the rest of it, I'm going to start talking about that now. So on that note, folks, I want to start here to wrap up this video by thanking another channel whose name is called The Best of Hockey. And this guy makes compilation videos of National Hockey League or hockey compilation videos where he takes these amazing highlights and puts them together in a montage. And he does a really, really good job. And to The Best of Hockey, if you are by chance watching this video, I want to formally thank you and acknowledge the fact that you did give me a shout out on one of your videos. And I wanted to thank you. And for anybody who's never checked out his channel, I really do strongly recommend checking him out if you do like hockey compilation videos where highlights or great, amazing highlights are put together. Because to be honest, I feel like he's done a really good job. And I want to thank you, Best of Hockey, once again for that shout out. It meant a lot to me, and I want you to know that I am very grateful for that, and I really appreciate it. The next thing I want to do is I want to quickly give a shout out to the Toronto Raptors. Thank you for bringing us Canadians a professional sports championship. It is amazing. This is the first time since 1993 that one of the three biggest leagues that have Canadian franchises has won. I mean, the last time there were winners in Canada out of the three biggest professional sports leagues that we have here in Canada, or have teams in Canada, the last time any teams won was way back in 1993 when both the Toronto Blue Jays of Major League Baseball and the Montreal Canadiens of the National Hockey League won their respective championships. Now, 2 years ago, and to me personally, I do consider Major League Soccer to be the fifth major professional North American sports league. So far I can tell that's a matter of personal opinion, but that's how I feel. And it was great seeing Toronto FC defeat the Seattle Sounders 2 years ago to give Canada a title, a Canadian team, or to give us our first Canadian team to win something in a professional sports league since 1993. Well, besides the Canadian Football League, of course, but they're not professional. They're more semi-pro. But you know, the thing is that it was great seeing Toronto FC win in 2017, and it's even more incredible that now 2 years later, Canada's one and only major or NBA franchise has won a title. And it is so amazing that Canada finally has us Canadians finally have been able to witness our first major professional sports team from the three biggest North American leagues that have Canadian franchises win a title. It's long overdue, And you know what? The thing about the Raptors is that not only did they have Toronto rooting for them, they had the whole goddamned country basically rooting for them. Even people like myself who do not care for basketball were watching the NBA Finals. Any chance I had the Raptors championship series on against the Golden State Warriors, and let me tell you, I could not be happier. In fact, when the Raptors won, I was at work and everybody stopped what they were doing to witness the Raptors win. That's how much this championship meant to us all here in Canada. It was incredible to witness. And Toronto, you guys should be so proud of your Raptors. And as a fellow Canadian sports fan, I could not be happier myself. Now, I also want to take a quick moment to congratulate the hockey guy for hitting 100,000 subs. I mean, that guy has just done such an incredible job with his channel. And I want to give him a shout out because you know what? 100,000 subscribers is not just something that you can snap your fingers and make happen. That's an incredible accomplishment, and I'm very happy for him. Also, I want to give a shout out to Gravite, which I think he pronounces his channel as Gravity. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he recently hit 1 million views. I wanted to give you a congratulations as well, Grav, and you know what? I think you deserve some credit as well. I mean, 1 million views is a major milestone, and that's incredible. Also, another thing I want to mention too is I want to thank my subscriber, Nick, who is somebody that I am also a longtime subscriber of as well, for the idea of doing the collaboration video recently with the Digital 6 uniforms for the NHL 19 video game. Nick, you did an amazing job pitching that idea, and you were a great person to work with for that video. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I also want to give Nick a formal video shout out for his very nice thumbnail that he created for that video. Nick, I thought you did an awesome job with that as well. And finally tonight, I also want to quickly thank you guys for the fact that this channel has now, as of this week, surpassed 35,000 views, which I know that's nothing compared to Gravite's million view milestone. But you know what? I'm just grateful that I've even had videos viewed that many times. I mean, that is so damn incredible. And I couldn't be more grateful for you guys. And this has been a lot of fun. But anyways, you guys, once again, I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos I've been putting together. And on top of that, how do you guys feel about the idea of the Tampa Bay Rays splitting their seasons between Tampa Bay and Montreal? I'd love to hear what you think, because in my opinion, if you feel that you need to move half of your games to another city, perhaps you should just move the whole team altogether. And personally, I hope it happens. I would love to see Major League Baseball return to Montreal and have the Expos return once again. And on that note, you guys, I'm going to call it a wrap on this video. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And of course, as usual, folks, until my next video, take care. And of course, as usual, bye for now.